In today's video, I'm having a look at the potential for a second wave of coronavirus, having a quick talk about earnings seasons, and as well as that, we're also going to be looking at what the global GDP outlook and forecasts are going to be for after coronavirus at the moment. Hello and welcome to another ACY Securities Market Update. My name is Alistair Schultz and I'm going to be your host through today's trading journey. Now, the first thing to sort of consider off the mark is always about COVID-19. At the moment, we've gone over 3 million infections, we have more than 200,000 deaths, and we have seen the numbers of recovered increase yet again to nearly 900,000. This is all looking quite positive, especially when we consider the idea that some countries, New Zealand, Australia, Italy, and the US, are starting to ease some of the lockdown measures that they put in place several months ago. Hopefully we'll see some good results out of that, but again, they are going to be tentative on the lockdowns and what restrictions are in place. If they do start to see a rise in infections again, then they will can the idea and tighten up that restriction again. Now, when we think about the idea of coronavirus and these lockdowns, we have to consider the impact of potentially having a second wave. All eyes are on China at the moment because they are looking for the idea of where it might happen and how it might happen and how to respond to it. So we have to be prevalent and look towards having lockdowns and still maintain that social distancing within reason. Now, what we see with the idea of a second wave is that we could potentially have one all too easily occur. That's why they are putting these restrictions in place to make it as a staged program for easing some of the lockdowns. Now, if a second wave does occur, then there is a high probability of it due to the idea of the herd immunity. Lockdowns have really just helped stop the spread of the virus. They have not at any stage helped increase the amount of people with immunities to the virus. So therefore, we do need to be very careful with it moving forward. Moving on to earnings season, it is the time of year where we do start seeing the earnings reports for lots and lots of companies, specifically publicly listed ones. We've already seen some sort of rather good earnings reports come out of America and Apple, but we are expecting to see a swath of ones that are not going to be so great and likely have negative and not have met their earnings report targets. This is not to be unexpected considering the global shutdown that's occurred. This week, however, we are looking at nearly 650 companies out of China that are likely to be putting up their earnings reports for all to see. I would not be at all surprised if we see negative earnings reports from a lot of other people and a lot of other companies coming across the globe. So that is definitely something to be in consideration for what might go on in the second quarter and third quarters of this year and how well some of these companies might survive, giving you plenty of options in terms of looking for and perhaps investing in some different types of stocks that you might not usually invest in. Now, when I come and think of GDP, we have spoken about this issue before, that we are likely to see a downturn of GDP across the globe. The figures are actually starting to look a little bit worse than they have been in the past. On the chart that I've got here for you now, it is showing the Bloomberg's economics forecasts and expectations for the future. You can see earlier on when we did it that we had one that was approximately 4%. They're now estimating that we might end up with something much more realistic at 8%, and that is an optimistic scenario, indicating that an economic crisis is on its way. Now, we are starting to hear other things out of countries like Australia where there are issues already in place. They obviously don't have the experience at the RBA to what's compared to what's happened in the US during 2009 and Asia during 1997. So the stimulus pack, whilst it is showing signs of working, is likely not enough at this stage. And how much further can the RBA really help with that measure is going to be problematic. It also remains to be seen on what happens with the quantitative easing that's currently occurring, not just in Australia, but around the entire globe, and how effective it's going to be. We certainly don't want to end up with countries in the same situation as Japan, where we've seen consistent low levels of inflation and effectively a recession-based principle for more than 10 years. That's definitely not something that's going to be good for any economy, let alone the global economy. So that is definitely something to consider. We're going to have to look at it and keep an eye on things as it moves forward. It might present us with a few opportunities to buy some things quite cheap and hopefully make some money on them on the way back up. Now, for the news ahead of tonight. There is a little bit of news coming out, nothing real major. The biggest high impact events that I really see on there is the US consumer confidence. The other one there is that we're going to have the Spanish unemployment rate. Now, the Spanish unemployment rate is in the 15% range. It's usually been pretty high over its last sort of couple of weeks and even years. So if that goes up a little bit higher, it's not going to be too much of a big difference considering. However, due to the coronavirus side of things, the increase in unemployment rates is going to be indicative of what the rest of the population is actually thinking. So let's keep an eye on that. And of course, tomorrow is a bank holiday in Japan. So please be aware, if you are trading any yen pairs or you have some yen or Japanese-based stocks, then be careful with what they're doing. You might not see the normal behavior that we have been experiencing so far. Now, if there's anything else that want me to cover in future videos, or perhaps you just want to get in contact with me, feel free to send me an email at talk2al@acy.com. And of course, like and subscribe to the video so you can get more great content from me and ACY Securities in the future. Have a great trading day ahead.